Hey friends, and welcome back to another episode of the On the Table podcast. In case you're not too sure what it is, this is where we bring four Christians together every week to discuss the matters which are on the table. So the point of the podcast is to make us not just think Christian things, but how do we turn what we believe into action? So the podcast aims to answer the question, how can I take the theological truths we profess and we believe, and how can I apply those beliefs into my everyday Christian life? So you'll be glad to know it's not just me on the table today. I have three more amazing guests who you're going to get to meet shortly. I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Toye. I'm from Birmingham, 0121 Birms on my back, the West Midlands. I live in Manchester now, right? Sunny Manchester. Part of the amazing team here at God Given Mission, where I'm an online editor. I love theology. I love football. I'm a Chelsea fan. I'll say that every single episode. I love Chelsea Football Club. But that's pretty much me. And then next to my left, we have Refaro. Introduce yourself.
Hey, like you just said, bro, my name's Rufaro. Originally from Zimbabwe, but I kind of grew up in Newcastle. So shout out 0191.
That does not roll off the tongue.
It does, 0191. Yo, we don't know much about gang life, but I'll rep my city to the end of the day, man.
0191, okay.
But yeah, actually, I moved to Manchester for university maybe 5 years ago now.
Wow.
Graduated, kind of loved the city so much, found a significant other who gave me considerable reason to stay. And then I became a pastor at my church as well. So that's kind of what I do now, but I also work within biomedical science as well.
Amazing. Nice to meet you. Up next, we have Lisa.
Hi, everyone. So, like I said, my name is Lisa. I'm a scientist, a lover of Jesus, an artist. I sing. And yeah, I just really enjoy life. I really do. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and the sun is streaming through my windows. I have very transparent curtains, translucent, I would say. So I like the light coming through in the mornings. And do you know, like on a Saturday when you lie in and you wake up naturally and you stretch and you're just like, thank you, Jesus, for life.
Yeah, I don't do that. I wish I was that person, but I'm not.
You need to go back, pray about it, and just say, God,
wow.
God, I want that.
I'm an ugly sleeper. Like, I wake up Saturday morning and I stay in bed for like another 2 hours, and I just slowly crawl out of bed.
I'm on your tip, Lisa.
Last but not least, we have at the table
Susana. Yes, my name's Susana. Say it again, just in case you missed that. I am probably the oldest one here. Yeah. You couldn't even deny that.
This is not great for a podcast, but she doesn't look like the oldest one here, basically.
Well, thanks. I am a social worker. I just love Jesus. I love to worship. I love his name.
Come on.
I love to praise that name
that
saved me. So yeah, that's me.
Amen. Why did I say amen? I feel like it's such a Christians
response, man.
Amen
what are they
is
like?
the full
Amen.
Stop,
So good.
Basically,
So good.
You finish sentence. Amen. Full stop.
Amen. We're so great to meet all of you. And today on the table, we have everyone's favorite topic, which is Christian relationships.
Yeah.
Right. We're seeing how long we can go without talking about it, but I guess today is the day. We're going to be talking about dating, right? More specifically, Christian dating. And why dating is such an interesting topic to talk about is because the Bible doesn't really have a set script on dating. The Bible makes no mention of dating anywhere in Scripture, at least not in the modern sense. In the Bible, when people would get together, they're pretty much arranged by their parents, or a man would see a woman, say, hey, yo, shawty, how you doing?
And she'd be by a well as well.
By a
Most
well.
of the times, she would be at the well.
He would see her.
Well, we're basically the bars of like
pretty much
the Jesus times.
Yeah, so a man will spot a lady, say, hey, you're pretty cool, and then he'll go to her father and ask for her hand in marriage, and they would get married. That was pretty much it. There was no boyfriend, no girlfriend, no going to the cinema or a movie to learn about each other's likes and dislikes. And what that now means today is because the Bible doesn't really speak about it specifically, everyone has their own ideas and principles as to how they believe kind of Christians should date. And some people altogether don't think Christians should date at all. So let's kind of start there. Is kind of what do you guys think about the terms dating, or would you rather use kind of courtship, or how would you kind of distinguish and define the two terms, just to kind of kick us off? If anyone would like to jump on that.
I'll let you go, Lisa. I think
from
I'm
what
the
I
least dated here.
from what I understand of courtship is getting into a relationship with the intention of getting married. And I think as a Christian, I don't see why you would get into a romantic relationship without the intention of getting married. Otherwise, to me, it's a waste of time. Because what are you getting into a relationship for? To have fun? What does it lead to?
Yeah.
And I think if you want to use the term dating, then what would you say dating is? I think as a Christian, you should be focused, regardless of if you use dating or courtship. The angle should be marriage, because that is what God wanted for us. He said it's not good for man to be alone. He didn't say Adam and Eve, get to know each other, walk around the garden a little bit, show Eve the great landscapes and woo her. No, he was like, oh, this is Eve, she's great, isn't she? And then he took her and he sort of like consummated everything, and she became his wife. So the end goal is marriage, whether you decide to use the term dating or courtship.
So good.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually, and even just add on a little bit that both are intentional. I think where with dating, the goal is more like, right, the goal is always marriage, but when I'm dating, I'm more figuring out, what do I like, what are my love languages, what do I appreciate, what do I value, which I guess will come into a question we're going to look at later about should Christians date. Spoiler alert, I think yes. But then I think courtship is like exactly like you said, it's I'm being intentional about this person I'm with. So dating is like marriage is the goal, but I'm still figuring out what I want, which you could argue it's a bit selfish, I guess. But then courtship is like I'm committed to that same goal, but now with another person.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be my distinction of dating and courtship.
Okay. I think that's perfect. Because I think sometimes, even maybe more so for a younger generation, when the church says, you should be kind of dating with marriage in mind, that sometimes that can get a little bit mixed up of, well, that means I'm going to have to marry the first man I meet straight away. Because, I can't, this sounds wrong, but test the waters in other places. Yeah. So I think how you've just put it is absolutely perfect. It's that process of getting to know you with another person. And I think it's only that process where you get to find out, actually, this is what I want. This is not actually quite a right fit for me. And then, you're learning about yourself as well as learning about somebody else. So I think that is perfect.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm picking up what you guys are putting down, and we're talking about kind of dating more so to kind of kick off with. So my first question then would be, how do Christians kind of go about dating then? And let's start at the very beginning of even entering that dating relationship. Is it a case of, all right, there's a girl in my youth group, I just love the way she worships, right? She has her hands in the air, her hair is waving, and I'm interested in her. What do I do as a young man? And the T is, and what the TL keep on saying is that Christian men just don't have game at all. Christian men don't know how to approach Christian women. So as a guy, we can start with you, Refaro, and hear what the ladies have to say. How should Christians go about entering these relationships? Should I go to her pastor and say, hey, pastor, I'm interested in taking this woman who's like your flock, who you care for and you tend for. I'm quite serious about it. Or is it like I send a, hey, big head text?
Hey, girl, what you
how
saying?
do Christians go about entering these relationships that we speak of?
I think but before you even go about entering it, there's a few things you need to ask yourself, like, what is my intention for this other person? I guess me speaking from a guy's perspective and speaking to any guys out there, young or older, if you are single and you are eyeing up a fine young lady, my question would be like, what is your intention here? Because I think, and we're probably going to get into it, like Christian men have a reputation for actually being worse than non-Christian men in some regards.
You said it.
And I've experienced that both in my before Christ days while still being a Christian, as well as just people around me. And so I'd say, okay, cool. What are your intentions here? And if you decide, okay, cool, my intentions are to get to know somebody, you don't have to specifically say that, oh, this is the person I'm going to marry. But I think some things you should think about is, okay, cool, intentionality, accountability, and then boundaries as well.
But also, let's be honest with yourself, because I think a lot of the time, I think maybe people feel pressure to say, my intention is to court you because I would like to marry you, where actually maybe that is not the intention. So, and I think there's some pressure on, because of the church and kind of, you know, you need to get married, blah, 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 that men, women will say, I want to date you because I want to marry you, when actually that's not
the reality, yeah.
So I think there's sometimes a blurred line, and that has to be clear as well. But just to go off what you were saying about the worship, that girl over there, I've had that guy approach me at the end of a service. The way you worship is so beautiful. I don't know why I have to go American, but I do. And I was just like, why were you watching me? You should be watching the Lord.
Where were your eyes?
Yeah, like that. Just to say, guys, it's not
having said that,
attractive.
Having said that,
yeah.
My girlfriend right now,
Did you use the line?
I didn't use the line, no, but like she's a worship leader at our church, and so there was one day I was just in worship, and then you look up, the Lord lifted my head. I like to say, and I saw her just leading worship. I was like, wow, it's an angel.
She's the one.
So I was gazing upon the Lord, and the Lord showed me. Now I'm joking for humorous effect, but that is a true story. Mm-hmm. But I do think, in God can use any moment. So I don't think everybody who uses that line is definitely authentic.
Yeah.
But don't disqualify that, hey, after church that you have to go approach that girl. Maybe let's sit for a bit. Maybe get her number through, sensible means, and then say, oh, I really love the way that you worship. Then leave it there.
So would you say then, before kind of asking somebody out, it's putting down those foundations of a friendship before then you get into that pattern of dating?
Yes, I would. I think a relationship built on a foundation of friendship is just so much stronger. It's more dangerous in the sense that if things go wrong, you do lose a friendship. So I think it's high risk, but it's so much worth it if it pays off. And that's why you always have to think about it before you go in, like, what do I really want? And before I go for what I want, let me just get to know this person. Let me just become friends with her, hang out in social settings, see what she likes, what she doesn't like. And should you then pursue it after that, it's like, okay, cool, I'm not now trying to get into her pants, as it were. I'm now like, oh, I've got a friendship with this person, and then it has the potential to become more. Not that Christian men are trying to do any of that, of course. Of course
not my brothers. It's nice, no.
I was going to say, I really liked your point that you made. At my job, I work as student recruitment advisor. They always tell us to manage expectations. And I think it's really interesting in the dating world. I think when you get to a certain age, usually when you enter university, everyone is fair game. You're in your youth group. I was like, oh my goodness, is this? Could it be? Is it he? Oh my goodness! Like all of a sudden, your worship posture changes from actually like trying to impress God to trying to be extra, to be seen.
Is that a reality for girls?
I think it is. I think it was a reality for me. Just trying to be noticed and feel like I was. I don't know what the word is, but there, if that makes sense. If you look in nature, every beautiful flower is beautiful for a reason, to attract a bee or a pollinator. That is why it's there. And I think I really enjoy God because you can see his handiwork and his intentions in everything that he does. So as a woman, you're not gonna be like ratchet and like, a bit trashy in the way that you come across. You're going to come across as your most beautiful self. And when you're in the Christian church context, that might be, I'm going to extend my hand.
Okay, I've got a question for the two ladies here then. So is that how a woman should shoot her shot?
Do we believe in that? Is that a thing?
Shoot her shot.
So this idea, I've seen a lot of kind of Christian men and women kind of say the same thing, that when it comes to relationship and courting, the onus is on the man to initiate anything. So the role of a woman simply is to kind of strategically position yourself.
Be that flower.
Like to be that flower and then wait around for a man to kind of come along. And then Rufaro's point is there like a incentive or a role a woman plays when it comes to entering those relationships? Like what does that look like for a woman?
I was going to say, just going back to the managing expectations point.
Sorry, yeah, please.
Is going into a relationship in the church context, I feel like people feel pressured to pair up quickly, because you don't want a good one to go, or could it be, is it he, if I've like not taken my opportunity. But if you are going into friendship and you actually don't feel pressured to say, I want to court you because I want to marry you, like the first 2 days of seeing them, but actually saying that I want to get to know you better, with no pressure or no strings attached. The thing is, there is slight pressure attached because we know girls, they're like, oh my goodness, this guy said he wants to get to know me. But actually managing expectations on both sides to saying that this might not be dating, but I would like to get to know you because I don't know how I feel about you right now. It's never going to be an instantaneous thing. I feel like Hollywood lied to us so much,
I agree.
because they have given us the notion of love at first sight. It's lust at first sight. It's infatuation at first sight. It's not actually love, because if we actually look biblically at the love that we're supposed to have in relationships, it's agape love. And it does not tell me in the Bible that agape love is like based on, I don't know, a hormone release. It's very much a verb. It's a doing word. And the extent to which God's love is for us and the way we're supposed to show it to others, especially our significant other, cannot be based off infatuation. So you saying that you want to get to know someone is you saying that I want to have companionship with you, because ultimately the person that you end up with is not just the person that you're gonna, I don't know, sleep with, but the person that you're gonna share the deepest bits of yourself with, the person that's gonna watch you walk through the hardest bits of yourself with. And you do not need eros love for that. You need agape love for that.
Come on.
And that love never fails. So having and going through the stages of dating, courtship, and the stages before that, managing expectations, it's a slow burner, but those are the things that really last forever. Those
They're
are like
more
the
meaningful as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying. And I think when Christians typically talk about dating and courtship, it often tends to be this kind of theoretical thing that we kind of discuss in our heads. But the whole point of the podcast is to make it practical. So let's say, for example, let's go back to that girl I saw at worship night who was just worshiping so fervently, I couldn't keep my gaze from her. And there's like an emotional pull there.
Yeah.
So what does it then look like from a Christian perspective to kind of go about dating? Is it a case of, from that instant I notice her, I need to go to say to, hey, I want to pursue a relationship, but I want to be friends first. So let's be friends for a bit. And after we're friends for a year, we can then date and then date for a bit and then court for a bit and then marry. Like, what does that actually practically look like for Christians in the 21st century? Do I go to her parents? Do I go to her pastor and say, can I have your flock's hand in courtship? Like, what do you actually do, and what does it look like?
That's such a strange term. Can I have your flock?
Your whole flock.
But I think a lot of people kind of struggle with that, because it is a grey area in scripture. There's no like Bible verse you can point to that says, hey, these are the 3 things you need to do. So we're kind of left to kind of use biblical principles from kind of like marriage and apply that to. But what does that actually look like for the everyday Christian who's interested in significant other? What do they do with that emotion?
Cool. I guess I can answer only from a guy perspective, and I don't claim to have all the answers or know everything, but from my experience with the person who I'm with right now, I was like, cool. I noticed it, but I didn't act on it in that moment, because like you said, it's first of all, it's an emotional thing, right? It is lust. It is like the eye, but you know, the Bible teaches not to make decisions out of our emotions. So I left it for a few days. Like, okay, cool. Will I still feel the same on Tuesday? Will I still feel the same a week, 2 weeks later? I was like, okay, cool, maybe I do. Then I started to pray about it, and I was like, okay, cool, God, this is somebody who I'm potentially interested in. Do I have your blessing to kind of go forward for it? Because it happened at a time when I was not really getting involved with girls. I was like, God, I'm just going to focus on you. And I was like, oh, I've noticed this person. what do you think, God? And I think you should definitely ask God what he thinks, because, you know, not every good thing is a God thing.
Yeah.
That girl could look great, she could look whatever, but, you know, you may be on a journey and she may be on a journey and it's just not the right time. So I would say pray about it, which seems cliche, but set like, okay, cool, for this month, I actually prayed for 3 months, but I'd say for somebody else, say for 4 weeks, I'm not actually going to talk to this person, but I'm going to pray, God, what are your thoughts on this? And that's where intentionality comes from. And I don't think you need to communicate to her that, okay, cool, I'm being your friend for 3.5 months, then we're going to date for a year, and then I'm going to propose, and then, because that's too intense, it's scary, and it throws them off. So I'd say just approach her and start a conversation. Like, girls are human beings, guys. Let me level with you for a
We are sometimes.
Sometimes. I mean, just catch it right time of the month. But anyway. I'm speaking about my own experience, not everybody.
Disclaimer.
I'm joking. Let me not dig myself anyway. But yeah, like, just pray about it, and then just spark a conversation. Like, do you guys like the same things? How does your friendship chemistry gel? Like, do you guys even like the same amount of stuff? Do you see God in the same way? Do you like kids? Do you not like kids? What are your family background? All these things are maybe not the driving things for the relationship at first, but they're what sustains it. In the end, they become the relationship. So just get to know somebody as a person, then as a friend, and then if it grows and blossoms from them, you do that. How to, I guess, practically, asking for blessing from the pastor. I think it's good to let your pastor know that you're doing it, so that you've got that accountability there. But asking for permission is, not to say outdated, but I think I'd say ask for blessing, not for permission, because this girl does not belong to any of these whoever's. But saying, hey, this is something I'm thinking about. My youth pastor, what do you think about it? They'll give you their 2 cents. They'll pray with you. They might say, yeah, sure. And the fact that somebody else knows about it and your intentions means that you're accountable. And should you two be spotted in McDonald's car park, whatever, and your youth pastor hears, oh, it's all right, I already know. And then your youth pastor is actually there to protect you against the whoever's out there who might be saying this or saying that.
And they said romance was dead, right? McDonald's car park?
Not even in McDonald's, in the car park. I think I had some really good advice once, actually. And even before maybe spending time one-on-one, because obviously, like what you were saying, Lisa, people are going to show you the best version of themselves if they're interested in pursuing anything. So one of the best pieces of advice I had was, yes, you can have that one-on-one time, but also spend time with their friends, because their friends will tell you a lot about that person. Let's not waste time with this facade that is being put before us. How do they interact with their friendships, their families? How do they interact, when you're talking about God? And so for me, I think it needs to be more organic and natural to understand that person, rather than, I think it gets to the point where you do have to have that conversation of, what is the next step? Why are we doing this? And what have you. But I think to get a true understanding of a person, it has to be quite organic, natural, and in, a natural environment. I think as well, it's very dependent on age. Like, I'm older. I don't have time to waste. I don't have a youth group to meet people at. And I think it's very hard as an older Christian person to meet other single Christian men, because they're all getting married in their youth groups. So by the time they get to my age, I'm just like, where you all at? I'm like, where are you all at? So again, I think the way you would go about dating, like, I get what you're saying, let's not rush, let's take things slow. And yes, take things slow, but let's not go too slow. And for me, that is where a lot of Christian men are at around my age. Like, I get it, pray. ask God. If you want to fast, that's fine. But let's
Let us know.
let it, like, just be real as well. Like, you're still just a person. Do you know what I mean? Let's not get so like, and this is crazy for me to say, because in all other areas of my life, I'm like, no, we need to fast, we need to pray. And I'm not saying don't do that going into relationships, but at the same time, like, just be honest and communicate and pray. Let's not just like, oh yeah, I like you, but I'm going to shut myself off for 6,000 years and seek God, and then I will let you know I've moved on. Like,
No, I agree. I think, contradicting myself, I guess, but like, we as Christians tend to over spiritualize things.
Yes.
Like, and it's dating is definitely spiritual, but it's not complicated.
yes,
And
that's
I think
it.
those 2 points are just like of communicating and being honest.
Yeah, just
are
keep it
huge.
simple. Let's be simplistic. God is not complicated. God is very simple in how he moves, how he speaks. You know, there was one person that I was talking to, and I was talking to him for about 3 weeks, and all through that time, I was saying, you know, I'm still praying and talking to God. You know, had it on the table as that. And then one day God just said to me, you know, let's pause here. Let's not go any further. And then because he knew that's what I was doing, I was able to say, actually, I've heard God speak and this is what he's saying. So let us just pause and let's not do anything else right now. So I think it is just keep it simple, make it plain, and just be natural about it. I think sometimes in the church, everyone's like, oh, they're going to want a super spiritual husband, wife. I have to look super spiritual and do X, Y, Z, and then I'll be more attractive, and then it never goes anywhere. Or you're marrying Mr. Fakery because he thought you had these expectations that you actually never had.
And I guess that comes on to expectation management, like what you said.
Yeah.
And also on that, on a Sunday is essentially a snapshot of what people's spiritual lives are like, right?
Yeah.
So somebody looks great in youth group or looks great on a Sunday morning with their hands up, but are they really like that Monday to Friday? Mm-hmm. And that's where like just like getting to know the person and their spiritual habits. How do they approach you in a fight or in an argument? How do they approach you when you guys disagreeing, or when they're happy or when they're sad? Is their answer really that posture of worship that you were attracted to?
But I think even before you asked that question about somebody else, what are you like with God? Like, you can't have expectations for someone to be some prayer warrior when you can't even bother to pray in the morning. Like, why are you setting such a standard that you don't even meet? So I think when you're asking those dating questions, or, you know, what do I want in my partner? Well, are you ready for that partner that you want?
Yeah.
Are you at that place where if my Mr. Right is this prayer warrior who worships, who loves his word, if he was to meet me and I was not that person,
He wouldn't even see
he wouldn't even see me. I would not be attractive to him. So if I'm looking for that in somebody, then let me be that person as well.
Are you what you are looking for is looking for?
Yes.
I was going to say as well, just to buttress that, I was going to say that we actually need to take it back to the importance of why we walk with God. It's not being all those things to attract someone, but actually, where is your faith at, full stop?
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Because that person is not going to get you to heaven. Only Jesus is.
Yeah.
So what does your relationship and your walk look like with God? Because ultimately speaking, when you meet the Lord face to face and he's, you know, asking you all these questions like, well, I was with this guy and, you know, we did all these things together and we did this, and you're like, so what were me and you doing? What was our relationship like? I can't trust. Quick story, when I was little, because my dad is a pastor and I was brought up in the church, one thing that I always remember is that I don't get into heaven just because my dad's a pastor. Full stop. It's always going to be my personal relationship with God. Like, you can't hang on somebody's personal relationship with God. That needs to be something first and foremost that you need to have for yourself in life, even before you think about having a relationship with someone else, because The only relationship that really matters is you and God.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Amen.
So good.
Full stop. And the deep satisfaction that you're wanting to find in someone else, no one else can actually fill the hole
Yeah.
but God.
Yeah, that's so good.
Everybody else and everything else in life is an added extra. But God is the one that fills that tank up. Best believe that when you get into a relationship and someone is riling you up and you're just like, God, why am I even here? You're just like, you fill my cup, Lord.
Yeah.
So good.
You fill my cup. And that is how you can pour out the agape love and the list that comes under that. You can pour that out and not be a leech and just suck out from someone, but actually be someone that pours into whatever you have.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
guess we
that's
came
so
from.
perfect.
Sorry, go ahead, Regan.
No, I was just saying yes and amen, Lisa.
I was just gonna say, I guess we're coming from the question with the assumption that you're a Christian and they're a Christian, but what about in a situation where they are a Christian but you guys are not equally yoked? I don't know what anybody around the table thinks about that.
Well, I have a good story about that. So when I became a Christian, I was like 16, 17, but my mum was like a first generation Christian. She'd not long been saved, and then she introduced me to God and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't have really that environment that I was growing up in that was kind of teaching me what it looked like to be to have a close relationship with God. Anyway, so I meet this guy. I believe in God. He really doesn't. We ended up being together for 10 years.
Wow.
And through our relationship, I'm becoming closer and closer to God. And he does actually become a Christian all by himself.
Hey, praise
and
God.
yes, but it was hard work because there's just not that same understanding, or there's a temptation to say, come do what I'm doing for a little bit. Do you know? And so it's different. And even in the relationship, you're speaking from one angle and they totally are speaking from a completely different perspective. And so you're not seeing anything in the same light on the same page. So, and I think as well, a lot of the time you get somebody in the relationship who's kind of, oh, I can save you. I can make you into who God wants you to be. And I can be your Jesus for you in this. And that's never going to work either. I'm not saying that you can't influence somebody and you can't kind of encourage them into that closer relationship with God, but that doesn't need to be at the point where you're considering getting married. I think that has to be, you have to have an understanding of each other and where you're both at, and if you're both walking that same path before you make any solid commitments, because otherwise there's that risk of taking one person into a direction that should have never been.
Never meant to be, yeah.
Like, if I think of the story of Abraham and Isaac, and Abraham sending his servant to go get Isaac a wife, his servant was like, oh, what if she doesn't come? Can I just take Isaac to her? No, you don't do that. You make sure that she's somebody that's coming into the place of his promise of where he already is. You're not going to take that partner out of the promise that God has already set for them because you're unequally yoked. It has to be someone that understands this is how God works. This is what he has for you. This is what he has for me. And together we're compatible and we're going in the same direction. Because on the back of what you were saying, Lisa, for me, marriage, yeah, it's great, it's wonderful, it's a beautiful thing, but your priority has to be my marriage to Jesus and my commitment to him. If that person's going to take me from that and my purpose and my walk, then I don't want it. Maybe that's why I'm here. It's my test.
No.
How bad do you want this?
No, it's true. It's so true. Your marriage to Jesus from the day you said yes is the most important thing, because once you have that in your mind and in your heart, then you're ready to do anything. I think it's really in the generation that we find ourselves and dating culture and I don't know, these different challenges that are going on right now on the world of social media, there are certain things that someone who is married to Jesus will not be doing.
Yeah.
They will not be doing.
Yeah.
There is a certain conviction that you will not be doing. I don't know, this shadow challenge. I don't even know what it's called.
Shadow
Shadow
challenge.
challenge.
I don't
What's
even know what it's
I
called.
think she means the silhouette.
There we go.
See, that's how you know she's a good Christian woman.
I'm married
she,
to Jesus.
she don't even know what it's called.
But it's the kind of thing where it's like, you will not be doing certain things. Having the
Yeah.
boundaries chat, you're just like, do Joseph and flee. There are certain things when you're married to Jesus, and that is the anchor for your life, the very
So
thing
good.
that keeps you going. It's what grounds you. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Actually, a pastor once told me that before you even think about, and this is in the context, I guess, of dating, but dating with the intention of marriage, so I guess courtship, that before you can love another person, you first must love God, and then love yourself, and then it's from those two loves that you can then love another person.
Yeah.
If you don't love God, then you are incapable of even loving yourself, and if you don't love yourself,
Yeah.
you can't love another person the way that God determined for them to be loved.
So right.
Yeah.
And then I guess the question I'm thinking of, because I'm really thinking about our listeners who are probably maybe university students, maybe around the 18, 19-year-old mark. At what point for them should they feel like they should start considering dating? If we're all saying that it's dating with the intention to marry, and let's say the average person is going to get married to, I don't know, 23, 24, 25, at what point as a believer should I start considering? And Susana, you have 3 daughters. So let's say one of your daughters says, there was Jake in second period who had blue eyes, and I'm just so mesmerized. We don't like Jake?
No,
What
no.
about Ayomide?
We don't like anybody for my children. If my children are asking, I'm like, you're going to wait till you're 30, then we'll think about dating. But no, I think seriously, if my children were asking me that question, my first question would be, what's the motivation? Why do you feel you're ready to date? Because if you're just wanting to date people because you want to be like your mates, then, well, no, let's not do that. And my second would be, well, how do you know what you're looking for? Like, how well do you know yourself? Are you dating because there are insecurities that you want fulfilling? Are you feeling lonely? Do you know, what is the reason that you want to date something that you're trying to fulfill in yourself? Because, there's a void or what have you that can only, because something that I've learned about myself is that I was looking to date or be in a relationship because there was something that I felt I needed that only a guy could give me.
Yeah.
And when I became, a lot closer in my walk with God, he fulfilled that gap.
Yeah.
So now when I'm looking at a guy or someone's talking to me, which is quite rare, but when it does happen, I'm not looking for him to meet any need. It's already been met.
Yeah, he's
So
just a
if-
bonus.
Exactly. So then I can quite easily give it, take it or leave it, because he doesn't need, I don't
Come on,
need
that's
him.
powerful.
So if my children come to me and say, Mum, I'm looking to date this guy, well, why? Is he meeting a need? Or do you genuinely think that this is something that could go somewhere forever? And, it's not you wanting something that you feel only he can meet. So I'd be looking at their relationship with Jesus, and then I'd kind of take it. I don't think there's a set age. I think it really is dependent on how well you know you, how satisfied you are with you, and that comes from how close your walk is with God.
No, that's really, really good. And then I guess, Rufaro, you being a student pastor, what happens when one of your students could approach you and say, hey, Megan from Bible study, the way she exegeted the word just had me on my knees, and I'm looking to begin a relationship. What do you say to that person who is kind of entertaining the idea? What kind of similar to Susana, what advice or what would you be looking for them to say?
Yeah, I think things like that work really well because of the relationship that a pastor has with their students, and fortunate to say that I do have that relationship. And just to go on something before I answer that question, I think it's definitely a maturity thing, because you can be 18, 19 and be more mature than a person who is, 27, 28. And so there's actually two of our students, funnily enough, in our church, both about 20, 21, are actually getting married this August. And, initially there were a few thoughts of like, oh, whatever. But I was actually backing them. I was like, actually, no, I know both these individuals. They're very mature. They've not just made this decision on a whim, but they've really, really thought about it. And they sought counsel, and they were very open and accountable at every stage of their relationship. So I think they're mature enough to make the decision to live the rest of their lives together. But if somebody comes up to me in that situation, I'd be like, okay, cool, let's talk about like why, like similar to Susana and her daughters, like what are you looking for from the other person? Like, are you interested in them for them, or is it because you feel like you have a deficiency that you need them to satisfy? But I'd always say, first of all, are you ready? Are you in a place where that person could even see you in that way? So first of all, are you, how would you, mainly when I'm speaking to guys, it's like, how would you lead this relationship? Because not in an gender patriarchal society, whatever, but like the Bible says that, the man is the leader. They're both equal, but they're different.
Yeah. So
to say, how are you prepared to lead another woman, another person even, in their life with God? And that's a lot of pressure, I guess, for a young person. But when you're dating, I do think there is a certain level of spiritual weight that comes upon us as guys, and you do have to consider that, okay, cool, I am now not maybe in the sense of like being joined together as one, as the Bible speaks about, but you are kind of like, your relationship should be an imitation or practice run of what marriage is like.
Yeah.
So you should be like, okay, cool, I need to start leading our devotion times. I need to start praying over us and stuff like that. And so I'd say, okay, cool, are you prepared to do that? How is your devotional life, and are you prepared to potentially lead a devotional life for two? Of course, she has responsibility for her own relationship with Jesus Christ. You are not her savior. You will not lead her to Christ. None of that, of course. But I think girls respond to, and I don't know the answers about girls, I guess I'm just going from my experience, but women respond to somebody who is not chasing them, but is chasing God. Yeah. And they're chasing off them as an overflow off that.
Very much
So
true.
reach.
We do that.
Yeah.
Suzanne, we do?
Yes.
We do.
But do you know what, though? I sound like such a downer. But you do. Oh, I don't know what to
Go
say.
on.
But I think there's quite an expectation on women to lead men, I have found. Maybe it's just the men that I attract.
What wells are you hanging around?
Where else? I just need a daddy to go get a servant to get me a man. But yeah, like men saying stuff like, oh, I want to be closer to God, and you can help me with that, or you can help me pray. I see how you pray. You can help me, and I'm like, wait, no.
Suzanne, it's because you're just so spiritually strong. If you think about it, you go to the gym and you see the strongest person, or you have a PT, you're just like, I want to look like that. Help me get to that.
Yeah, but that is not my. Okay, maybe I'm just a traditionalist. Going back to a question, I guess, about men, women, who initiates. I am very much a traditionalist. If you're interested, then approach. I'll speak for myself. You are to lead the household, to be the head with me supporting. We do this together. So I don't want you coming to me and say, teach me how to pray. No, it's never going to be attractive. You need to be ready to do this alongside me. You need to be ready to run this thing together and not wait for me to kind of carry you.
Yeah.
I don't need that kind of burden.
No, that's true, actually, and I do agree. I've actually had this discussion about who should shoot their shot first, and everybody's always like, well, Ruth was just doing what she was doing, and then Boaz came to her, and there's truth in that. I think when you are doing what God has tasked you to do, often you're running your race, and then you look across the lane like, oh, rah, you're running too. Okay,
That's it.
Yeah, let's combine. But it's exactly what you're saying there. They need to be running for themselves.
Yes.
You can't be like, okay, left leg, right leg, left leg, because
Yeah.
that's when you're unequally yoked and it's whatever. But I do think this has the potential to fall into where a man can't be vulnerable in front of his girlfriend or his wife. And I do think you should be, yes, leading the relationship, but not above saying, hey, like, babe, I'm actually struggling right now. Can you help me out? But I think that's a different situation
That's totally different.
from
Like, if
starting
you're,
something.
Yeah, it's a totally different situation. You know, I think it's different to be vulnerable, and then it's different to also be.
Inadequate.
There's strength in being vulnerable. So that for me isn't an issue. It's. I think Christian men just need to man up.
Yeah.
Foundations. But you know what? Maybe it's because as well, if we're going to be real, that I dated as a non-Christian, and non-Christian men are so different. And maybe that's my struggle. You know, a non-Christian man will just have things on the table and make it known, make it plain. And whereas a Christian guy will not say a single thing.
Is it like sort of like they're skirting around, like there's a bit of shyness and reluctancy?
I don't
like
know
a bit
what
of
it
fear,
is.
like they're tentative, like these women are gonna kill us, like those spiders that killed their
Black Widow's just sticking out.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I had one guy. This sounds like I speak to a lot of guys. I really don't.
So there's been guy number 1,
Guy number
2.
I had
6,
one
7,
guy.
yeah.
No. And he said to me that he didn't agree that men should approach women because Eve was given to Adam and Adam was just there. So Eve, because she was the one given, should be the one that approaches.
It's completely out of context.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think I agree. But I don't know. I think it's... Go on.
I would say I personally am traditionalist like you, that, you know, I should approach the girl, and I did. But in the same breath, I'm actually not opposed to a girl shooting her shot. But I think it can be dangerous because sometimes if it's her who initiates it, she then ends up being the one who has to sustain it, and that can be quite, you know, straining and, you know, emotionally and, you know, spiritually exhausting in the long run.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, you know, the majority of the time the girl should, but I not to say that she can't. And the way that a girl does it is like our flower analogy from before, is making yourself known and seen and say, hey, brother, look this way. Be known to you, me, that kind of thing. And it's funny, nobody here, of course, knows my girlfriend, those who are listening, but this is her voice speaking right now. She's very much like, not all women, but for herself, she feels that the way that a woman shoots her shot is by, not with her words in the sense of like, oh, put your number on my phone or something like that. It's like how you act. It's body language. It's covert, and it's sexual, but not in a sinful sexual way. It's sexual in like the art form. Like it's godly. It's like she's like, hey, I am making myself known right now, and I'm opening myself up. But that sounds not the way that I wanted to come across. But it's like she's putting herself out there in every way but her words. But in a very respectful and God-fearing way.
No. Just for time's sake, thank you for that. And I think we didn't really get your last thoughts on that, Lisa. So let's say kind of you in your women's fellowship that you lead, one of your sisters in Christ kind of comes with you, making it known that there's a guy who's interested and she's kind of considering or entertaining the idea of entering this relationship with her. What bit of advice would you give to her before she kind of enters that relationship?
What I would do is, if I know this person really well, you know your sisters and you know their brokenness and you know their places of pain, and as a good friend you'd just be like, okay, so what is this playing into? Like, are you ready for this? I know you just got out of a really bad relationship. Is your heart ready? Like, has God healed that place? Do you feel like it's just something that you just want to do just because you don't want to be alone? Or, you know, have you given yourself enough time to heal, kind of thing? I'd ask her, where are you at with God? Like, are you still consistent? Are you still praying to him? Are you still fellowshipping? Are you still, are you strong in the Lord right now? And I'd ask more about this person. Like, I don't care how you feel about him. What's his walk with the Lord like? Like what does he believe in? Kind of thing. because those ones are very much non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Because I always remind my friends that the person that you're marrying is the governor of your house. They're the person that's going to lead you. They are the one who is going to lead your family. They need to be before the Lord and be able to hear from the Lord to lead you and your family through everything. So if they don't have a good relationship with God, and you're just like, that's a compromisable thing for you, then you're compromising your future, essentially, because you're submitted to someone who is now your head, essentially. So even though it's dating and you're just like, I just want to, get to know this guy, you need to think, do I want him running my life?
Yeah.
And I think that's why dating is a good thing, because you get to understand, okay, cool, what do I expect from a man? What do I expect from a woman? What do I like? What do I not like? What are my love languages? What are the things that I value? And all of these. And that's why you only understand those things through dating. I'm not advocating serial dating for sure. I think you still need discernment and being selective and being a little bit stush as well.
This is a stush advocator.
Yeah, I am. But I definitely I think dating is a good thing for a young Christian to do, because that's how you grow as an individual. You get relational skills through that as well. So a lot of guys, can't speak for everybody, I guess, but maybe you're told no girls, focus on school and books the whole way through your life. Then all of a sudden it's, why don't I have any grandkids from your parents?
Yeah.
And it's like this complete flip. But you need those social skills of how to talk to a girl. How do you relate to a girl when she's upset and she's crying? How do you comfort her? How do you do all of these things? And that only comes through friendships, first of all, having friends with guys and girls that are purely platonic, but then also dating as well.
So
Just to say though, just like caution kind of thing, dating isn't just a physical thing. It is very spiritual as well. You hear about soul ties, blah, blah, blah. You can get so intertwined in the place of dating that you kind of forget your spiritual senses. I think it does have to take a level of maturity to be ready to date, because you don't want to get so intertwined spiritually and in your heart that you don't remain the person you were before you went into that relationship, and you're carrying something that isn't of God. So I think to date requires maturity.
And just to add on that as well, I think that happens easier and faster when you are engaged in a sexual relationship, but I think that can equally happen when you're not sexually engaging with each other, and it's just there's like amalgamation of your emotions and your spirit, especially more for young girls. I hope I'm not overstepping when I say that, but I think there are a lot of girls maybe in the church who've been heartbroken in the past, and that's because they had this like really strong emotional and sometimes spiritual attachment with somebody that wasn't necessarily sexual, but it was because they filled that gap that we were kind of talking about before with that guy.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to wrap it there just for time's sake. But thank you guys so much for being on this episode. I'm sure there was so much kind of content that was richly edifying and blessing. And we hope it helps kind of that person listening to this conversation who is struggling to decide whether or not to enter this relationship or courtship. And we thank you guys for listening as well. And make sure to like this podcast. Make sure to comment. Make sure to share it with your friends. And as always, we will catch you the same time next week with another episode of the On the Table podcast. See you there. Bye-bye.